everyone, and welcome back to another Storytime video. So this time is all about awful friends. So with the Awful Friends series, I am going to go through one story at a time. So this story is about a friend of mine. She's not a friend anymore. She used to be. But let's just call her Paige for the sake of the story. So Paige and I were the best of friends when I was growing up. She was literally my first friend ever. And we would even joke that we were best friends even before we were born because our mothers were friends when they were pregnant with us. Well, anyways, Paige and I were tight, like super tight. To where we could just walk into, or where I could actually walk into their house and just be like, "Hey mom, I'm home." And her mom would respond with something like, "Welcome home, honey," or whatever. So you get the idea of how close we were. This is a story of awful friends. So with that intro, you're probably like, "Oh my god, Lala, that sounds amazing. How is this an awful friend story?" Buckle up, because you're in for a wild ride here. So I have always been an amazing friend to her. I was always there for her whenever she needed me. I was always at her house. I was always giving her things like that I didn't want or that I didn't need. Whenever I acquired them, because she just didn't have very much. Her dad was an abusive dad, and he was a drunk, and would punish the kids in very cruel ways because they had many kids. There were like 3 of them living all together. At least in the same house, and then like 2 or 3 older ones that weren't in the house anymore. So he punished them in very cruel ways and would even yell at me whenever I was there just because he didn't like my parents. Like, what kind of person are you? Like, don't take your anger out on someone else's kid. The kid hasn't done shit to you. But like, I would stick up for her at school when people called her bad names and accused her of sleeping around with everyone once we got into like 7th grade. I stood up to her father once when he was about to hit her or punch her when he was drunk. I was there for her when her sister died and no one else was there, including our other friends who claimed to have taken my spot as her best friend. For her birthday, when we were older, I got her a brand new laptop because for a very long time, she had wanted and needed one, but her parents weren't going to get her one. So, I took the liberty of getting her one. I also took her to one of my school dances when we were in separate high schools because she didn't make it to any of her own schools that year due to her parents. And so on and so forth. As you can tell, I've done a lot. So going into adulthood. And I remember this girl always having said while we were growing up that she was not going to get into drugs or drinking heavily or any of that. We were pretty straight edge kids growing up. She had a lot of self-esteem issues and would always cake makeup on her face every day, and she was bulimic for a time too. Me, being the kind of person that I am, always tried to help her and protect her. So this part is very important. The fact that I always wanted to help and protect her. So before I get into why we parted, I want to fill in that she was an awful friend to me even before this. So if you want to hear more stories about that, let me know down below. Now, back to the main story here. So when we grew up and I had moved out of the state, I came back home for a visit. Of course, I had to go visit my best friend at her place, which was a trailer that her parents owned, and they were letting her live there. She had a boyfriend living there with her, whom I had never met nor even heard of before this. Now, again, this girl, all of our lives, said that she was never going to get into drugs or any of that kind of thing. Well, he was a drug user. Marijuana for sure, but I'm not sure if he was using any other things too. As if marijuana wasn't bad enough in my opinion. I asked her the usual questions like, how they met, how long they had been together, normal things that most people would ask. She said they worked together at a beef jerky factory. They had only been together for a few months, and that the first time he came to her place, he came, stayed, and just basically never left. So I thought that was really creepy, really odd, and just downright weird. But hey, who am I to say that their love wasn't real, right? Anyways, she was the one who brought up to me that he did drugs. I called her out on what she had said all of our lives about drugs and drug users. She then proceeded to tell me that this guy had quit and had been on probation or something. Like he had a PO who was coming the following week or something to check up on him and give him a drug test. He was chugging pickle juice and peeing like crazy, which I guess was something that Paige's mom told her would clear the drugs out of his system quickly or something. So I had been there with one of our other friends, but she isn't important for this story. That is an entirely different topic on its own. Well, that other friend and I were leaving Paige's place, and her boyfriend was sitting out in the car because he got angry that I called him out in front of him that I could smell marijuana really, really strongly from outside the car. Or no, not from outside the car, from in the house while we were in there. And my friend was in complete denial. Well, we got outside, had to walk past the car that he was in, and you could just smell the marijuana really, really, really strongly from outside the car. I looked at Paige and asked her, "Do you smell that?" She answered, "No, what is it?" I looked at her just completely dumbfounded, and I couldn't believe that my best friend that I had grown up with and thought was smarter than this was in such denial, and even saying that now as an adult, even saying now that we were adults, that she wouldn't date someone who did drugs. I said, "It's pot. He's smoking pot in your car. You can't tell me he quit using." So she got angry with me, called me a liar, even though our other friend had smelled it too and agreed with me wholeheartedly on this, and then Paige told us to leave. Then told me that if I was going to say stuff like that about her boyfriend, to leave and not come back. Well, she got what she wished for because that's exactly what I did. I left, and I have not actually seen her since. But from what I've heard, is she got into really heavy drinking since then. She got kicked out of the trailer by her parents because her and her boyfriend had started doing drugs together in there. I think he was put in jail or prison for a time, or maybe he's still there, who knows. I know that she also got together with some of her coworkers and literally planned on kidnapping someone's little sister, killing her, and dumping her body into a nearby lake or river. Like, really? Who does or even says crap like that? I also had heard from other people that Paige had gone around telling everybody that her boyfriend had gotten her the laptop that I bought her, even though her mom and the rest of her family could and did tell everyone that was wrong, and that I bought it for her, and that I had and Paige had been saying that I had always been a terrible friend, and that I was never there for her, etc. So, I mean, if you think back on what I said that I have already done for her when we were growing up, you can already tell that that's just not true. So yeah, needless to say, I haven't seen or talked to her since I left her trailer that day, and that was many, many years ago. And from what I had heard during the years after that, I don't think I would ever want to associate myself with Paige ever again. After realizing just how awful she was, it forced me to think back on my whole relationship with her, and I realized then and there that she was the one who was never a good friend to me. That I had done all of this good for her and tried to boost her confidence and all this other stuff for her, like through our entire lives, when she had done nothing but talk bad about me to everyone else after we were in like in the middle of our middle school years. So that was Paige on our little awful friends story time. So if you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up down below. And don't forget to let me know if you like these story times, what you want to hear. I have so many like paranormal